What if one concert appearance could suddenly make ARMY feel as though they had traveled 8 years into the past? What if the Taehyung standing under the Baltimore lights in 2026 somehow looked and carried himself like the younger V fans remember from years ago? And what if that was the real surprise of the night? Not simply his performance, but the feeling that came rushing back with it. If you notice the same thing, stay until the end, because there is one detail about Taehyung's Baltimore appearance that made this nostalgia feel even more powerful. And before we continue, tell us in the comments, did Taehyung remind you of his younger self in Baltimore? If this moment brought back memories for you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts with fellow ARMY. When Taehyung appeared on stage during BTS's ARIRANG World Tour in Baltimore, something immediately felt different. The atmosphere was already enormous, with thousands of ARMY gathered to experience BTS together again. But as Taehyung stepped into the spotlight, attention seemed to shift toward one unexpected feeling: nostalgia. It was not simply about his clothes, his hairstyle, his expressions, or the way the stage lights framed his face. It was the combination of everything. There was something familiar about his youthful energy, his relaxed expressions, and the effortless charm that has always made Taehyung so recognizable. For many longtime fans, it felt almost as though a younger version of V had suddenly walked back onto the stage. And that was when the emotional reaction began. For ARMY who have followed BTS for years, Taehyung is not just a performer they have watched on screens. His career has unfolded alongside memories from different periods of their own lives. They remember the early years, the changing hairstyles, the different eras, the award shows, the concerts, the behind-the-scenes moments, and the countless times Taehyung surprised everyone with a completely different visual or personality. That is why seeing him in Baltimore created such a powerful reaction. One moment, fans were watching the present-day Taehyung performing as a mature global superstar. The next, many were reminded of the Taehyung they knew years ago. It was almost like opening an old photo album, without actually turning a single page. There was a softness in his appearance that immediately triggered memories. His expressions appeared playful and youthful. His stage presence felt natural rather than forced. Even the way he interacted with the atmosphere around him seemed to remind longtime ARMY of earlier BTS eras, when Taehyung could capture attention with nothing more than a smile, a glance, or a small change in expression. And perhaps that is why the reaction was stronger than anyone expected. Taehyung has changed over the years. That is undeniable. He has grown as an artist, experienced different stages of life, explored different musical identities, and developed an even stronger presence as a performer. But sometimes, one particular moment can reveal something that time cannot erase. The younger Taehyung is still there. That may have been the biggest surprise of the Baltimore concert. Fans did not necessarily feel that they were literally seeing Taehyung from 8 years ago. Instead, they recognized pieces of that younger version of him in the person standing before them in 2026. The familiar smile was still there. The mischievous energy was still there. The expressive eyes that have fascinated ARMY for years were still there. And most importantly, the emotional connection between Taehyung and his fans still felt incredibly familiar. For fans who have been following BTS since around 2018, that feeling can be difficult to explain. 8 years is a long time. A person can change dramatically in 8 years. Their life can move in an entirely different direction. Their priorities can change, friendships can change, and memories can become distant. Yet when ARMY looked at Taehyung in Baltimore, some of those years seemed to disappear for a moment. The stage became a bridge between the past and the present. That is what made the moment so emotional. Imagine remembering Taehyung from years ago, then suddenly seeing him again after everything that has happened since. BTS went through enormous changes. The members experienced individual projects, personal growth, military service, a long period away from full group performances, and eventually their return to the world stage. And now Taehyung was standing there again. Older, more experienced, and more confident, but somehow still carrying that unmistakable youthful spark. For ARMY, that contrast may have been more emotional than any dramatic stage effect. The Baltimore concerts themselves were already significant moments for BTS. The group performed at M&T Bank Stadium on August 10 and 11 as part of the ARIRANG World Tour, bringing their long-awaited return to stadium stages to another major American city. But within that huge production, fans found something much more personal. They found memories. That is the strange power of nostalgia. It does not always arrive when you expect it. Sometimes it appears because of a song. Sometimes it is a photograph. Sometimes it is a familiar voice. And sometimes all it takes is seeing someone you have watched for years suddenly make the same expression they used to make long ago. For many ARMY, Taehyung's Baltimore appearance became exactly that kind of moment. The internet reaction surrounding his recent concert visuals also reflected how strongly fans noticed his transformation and youthful appearance. Rather than focusing only on performance details, many fans were captivated by how different and familiar he seemed at the same time. The discussion quickly became less about age and more about memories. Fans were essentially asking one question: how can Taehyung look like this again? That question says more than any compliment could. It shows that his appearance did not simply catch attention because he looked good. It activated a memory. And memories are powerful. A longtime ARMY might look at Taehyung on stage and remember watching BTS videos years ago. Another fan might remember discovering a particular BTS era for the first time. Someone else might remember listening to BTS during an important moment in their own life. For each person, Taehyung's youthful appearance could represent something completely different. That is why the Baltimore moment became so emotional. It was never only about Taehyung. It was also about the people watching him. ARMY have grown alongside BTS. While the members were growing older, their fans were growing older too. The world around them changed. Yet the moment Taehyung appeared with that familiar youthful energy, some fans were reminded of who they were years ago. It was as though Taehyung had not only brought back an old version of himself. He had brought back an old version of his fans. That may be the most beautiful part of the entire story. Taehyung's appearance in Baltimore did not erase the years that had passed. Instead, it showed how those years can exist together. The younger V that fans remember and the mature Taehyung standing on stage today can both be part of the same person. The past did not disappear. It simply became part of the present. And perhaps that is why the moment felt so special. After years of waiting to see BTS together again, ARMY finally had the chance to watch Taehyung perform on a massive stadium stage once more. Yet instead of feeling completely unfamiliar after such a long journey, he somehow looked reassuringly familiar. The face had matured, the experiences had changed, and the career had evolved, but the spark remained. That spark is what fans recognized. That spark is what made them nostalgic. And that spark is probably what will stay in their memories long after the Baltimore lights have gone dark. Because sometimes the most unforgettable concert moments are not the loudest ones. They are not necessarily the moments filled with the biggest production or the most spectacular effects. Sometimes, the moment that stays with fans is simply the moment when they look at an artist and realize how much time has passed. Then, almost magically, they recognize the person they remember. For ARMY, Taehyung's Baltimore appearance may have been one of those moments. 8 years may have passed, but for a few seconds it felt as though the distance between then and now had disappeared. And maybe that is the real surprise. Taehyung did not need to become his younger self again. He simply reminded everyone that the younger Taehyung was never truly gone. He was still there, in the smile, in the expressions, in the playful energy in the eyes, and in the connection he continues to share with ARMY. So now the question goes back to you. When you saw Taehyung in Baltimore, did you also get that strange feeling that you were looking at the Taehyung from years ago? Did his appearance remind you of the era when you first discovered BTS? Or did you see something completely different, a more mature Taehyung who somehow still carries the same youthful charm? Whatever your answer is, one thing is certain: Baltimore gave ARMY another memory to keep. And years from now, when fans look back at photographs and videos from the ARIRANG era, they may remember many things about these concerts. But perhaps one of the most emotional memories will simply be this. For one unforgettable moment in Baltimore, Taehyung made an entire generation of ARMY feel young again.